Look, I've seen enough. I just watched a guy walk out of a big box store with a 55-inch 4K TV under his arm, grinning because he only paid $429. And honestly, my heart sank for him. Because in 2026, that deal isn't a bargain, it's a countdown. We are officially in the era of the disposable display. If you're hunting for a 55-inch screen right now and your budget is capped at $500, you are walking straight into a marketing minefield. Brands have gotten terrifyingly good at hiding the truth. They'll slap HDR and AI upscaling on the box in neon letters, but what's actually inside is a dim 60 Hz panel with a processor that struggles to even launch Netflix without crashing. We're talking about backlight bleed that looks like a flashlight is stuck in the corner of your screen, and color accuracy that makes skin tones look like spoiled ham. Today, I'm stripping away the hype. I've tested the best sellers from Walmart, Amazon, and Costco, and I'm telling you exactly why you need to put your wallet back in your pocket. There is one specific brand everyone loves that is the biggest trap of them all, and if you buy it, you'll be back in that store in 18 months buying its replacement. To understand why $500 is the magic danger zone in 2026, you have to look at what's happening in the global supply chain. A few years ago, $500 could actually buy you a mid-range TV that felt solid, but today, inflation and the skyrocketing cost of high-bandwidth processors have pushed the good stuff up to the $800 bracket. What's left in the sub-500 pile are the leftovers. These are the components that didn't make the cut for the flagship models. Panels with uneven backlighting, plastic chassis that creak when they get warm, and power boards that are pushed to their absolute thermal limits just to keep the screen on. Here's the thing that really grinds my gears, the brand tax. You walk into a store, you see a 55-inch TV with a massive household name on the front, let's call it the Samsung Crystal UHD series, and it's sitting there for $479. You think, it's a Samsung. I know that name. My phone is a Samsung. My fridge is a Samsung. Surely they wouldn't put their name on trash, right?
Wrong. The Crystal UHD is the ultimate hype trap of 2026. It's the king of the edge-lit disaster. See, instead of having lights directly behind the screen, this thing has a string of LEDs along the bottom edge. It's like trying to light up a football field with two flashlights held at the 50-yard line. When you watch a movie like The Batman or Dune, you aren't seeing shadows, you're seeing gray soup. And because there's no local dimming, when a bright spark appears on a dark background, the entire bottom half of your TV glows like a radioactive accident. But the worst part? The 13-month death. Our data shows a massive spike in these specific models, losing their backlights almost exactly 30 days after the manufacturer's warranty expires. It's not a TV, it's a subscription to a repair bill. And don't think LG is letting you off easy either. Their UQ and UR series, the ones you see piled up in the middle of the floor at Costco, they're leaning on the Life's Good slogan while handing you a panel that has the contrast ratio of a wet cardboard box. If you buy a budget LG in 2026, you're basically buying a really expensive picture frame for an ad delivery system. The WebOS on these lower tier models is so bloated with sponsored content and AI recommendations that the actual processor, which is about as powerful as a 2018 smartphone, just chokes. Imagine trying to navigate your favorite streaming app and having the TV freeze because it's trying to load a banner ad for a car you'll never buy. It's frustrating, it's insulting, and in 2026, it's completely avoidable if you just stop chasing the big name labels. Then there's Sony. I love Sony. Their high-end Bravia 9 is arguably the best TV on the planet right now. But their entry-level stuff? It's the legacy trap. They know people will pay an extra $150 just for that 4-letter logo. For $499, Sony gives you a direct LED backlight with zero local dimming. That means the LEDs are behind the screen, which is better than edge-lit, but they all turn on or off at the same time. You get no pop, no depth, just a flat, uninspired image that looks like it belongs in a dentist's waiting room, not your home theater.
So who are the boring heroes? The ones that actually give you a fighting chance at this price point? I'm talking about the brands that realize they can't win on name recognition, so they have to win on actual physical hardware. The TCL QM6K is the only reason I haven't completely given up on the sub-$500 market. It's a QD mini LED. That sounds marketing jargon, but it actually matters. Mini means the lights in the back are tiny, thousands of them. QD means quantum dots for better color. This is the only 55-inch TV under $500 that actually has enough local dimming zones to make HDR look like something other than a mistake. It's not perfect, the viewing angles are narrow, so if you're sitting off to the side, the colors start to shift, but at least it's trying. And then there's the Hisense U6. It's the boring hero because it doesn't do anything flashy, but it uses a decent VA panel with high native contrast. But even with these heroes, there's a catch. In 2026, these brands are under immense pressure to keep costs down, so they save money on the invisible stuff. The speakers sound like they're made of tin cans and string. The stands are wobbly plastic that feels like it'll snap if a cat sneezes near it. And the software, whether it's Google TV or Fire TV, it's hungry for your data. You are the product as much as the TV is. But at least with these two, you're getting a picture that doesn't make you want to return the TV the next morning. I know what you're thinking. Austin, I just want a TV for my bedroom. It doesn't need to be a masterpiece. I hear ya, but there's a difference between basic and broken, and most of what you're seeing for $399 or $449 is fundamentally broken tech being dressed up in a tuxedo. If you buy an edge-lit crystal display or a bottom-tier LG, you aren't just getting a worse picture, you're getting a device designed to fail so you'll buy another one in 2 years. That's not a deal, that's a scam.
Now let's talk about the stuff they don't put in the glossy brochure at the store. Because in 2026, the gap between it works and it's actually usable has become a canyon. If you're a gamer or even just someone who watches a lot of live sports, this is where the sub-$500 models start to show their true colors. And usually those colors are blurry and late. Take motion handling. Most people think 4K is the only number that matters, but that's just how many dots are on the screen. The number that actually dictates your sanity is the refresh rate. Almost every 55-inch TV under $500 in 2026 is still stuck at the native 60 Hz. Manufacturers try to hide this with marketing terms like motion rate 120 or smooth motion 240. Don't fall for it. Those are fake numbers. They're just using software tricks to flicker the backlight or insert black frames to fool your eyes into thinking the motion is smoother. But if you watch a fast NFL pass or play a round of Call of Duty, that fake processing creates what we call ghosting, that weird, smeary trail behind moving objects that makes you feel like you need an eye exam. And here is where it gets really weird. Some of these budget 2026 models have started using a trick called DLG, or dual line gate. They tell you it gives you 120 Hz for gaming. What they don't tell you is that to achieve that speed, the TV literally cuts its own resolution in half. You're paying for a 4K TV, but as soon as you turn on gaming mode, it drops down to 1080p just to keep up. It's like buying a Ferrari that only hits 100 miles per hour if you take 3 of the wheels off. Then there's the privacy tax. Have you ever wondered how brands can sell a 55-inch piece of complex glass and silicone for $350 and still make a profit? It's because you're not just the customer, you're the harvest. In 2026, the lower the price of the TV, the more aggressive the data mining. These budget sets are essentially surveillance devices disguised as entertainment. They use ACR, or automatic content recognition, to track every single thing you watch, even if it's through an external antenna or a DVD player. They know when you pause, they know what commercials you skip, and they sell that profile to advertisers to subsidize the cost of the hardware. This is why the home screens of budget TVs are so cluttered with ads. You're navigating a minefield of sponsored content just to get to your HDMI input.
Now I know what you're thinking. Austin, I'll just use an Apple TV or a Shield Pro and skip the built-in software. And that's a smart move, but it doesn't solve the hardware bottleneck. Inside these $400 sets, the processors are running on the absolute edge of their thermal limits. Because there's almost zero cooling in these plastic shells, the TV will actually throttle its own brightness if you watch a bright movie for too long. Have you ever noticed your TV getting dimmer during an action scene? That's not dynamic contrast. That's the TV trying to not melt its own internal components. And speaking of components, let's talk about
about the panel lottery quirk. In 2026, brands like Hisense and TCL are sometimes sourcing panels from 3 different factories for the exact same model. You might buy a 55-inch U6K and get a great VA panel with deep blacks, while your neighbor buys the same model and gets an IPS panel with gray blacks and terrible contrast. It's a gamble, and at the $500 price point, the house usually wins. And don't even get me started on trust and support. If your $1,500 OLED has a dead pixel, the manufacturer usually sends a tech to your house. If your $429 super deal develops a purple line across the middle 6 months in, you're often expected to box it up yourself. Good luck finding the original box and ship it back to a warehouse at your own expense. For most people, that shipping cost is half the price of the TV, so they just throw the whole thing in the landfill. That is the disposable display cycle I'm trying to help you break. Look, I'll be honest with you. The marketing on the box in 2026 is almost entirely fiction. Dolby Vision on a 300-nit screen is like putting a 5-star chef in a kitchen with only a microwave. It technically meets the standard, but you're not getting the intended experience. You're getting a compromised, watered-down version of reality. If you want a TV that actually respects your eyes and your time, we have to look past the $500 wall. So we've torn down the marketing myths, we've looked at the disposable display cycle, and we've exposed why $599 is the most dangerous price point in the 2026 tech market. But I'm not here to just tell you what not to buy. I'm here to show you where the smart money is actually going. If you can stretch your budget even just $200, the world changes. You go from a TV that barely works to a TV that actually wows you. If you want the absolute best 55-inch TV for the majority of people in 2026, the search starts and ends with the LG C5 OLED. I know it's a predictable choice, but it's the gold standard for a reason. In 2026, LG finally cracked the code on making OLED brightness competitive with mini LED without sacrificing that perfect black contrast. We're seeing a native 144Hz refresh rate here, which makes it a dream for PC gamers, and the new Alpha 9 Gen 8 AI chip is doing things with upscaling that I didn't think were possible. If you're watching an old 1080p stream, this thing makes it look like native 4K. It's the set it and forget it TV. But look, I'll be honest with you, OLED isn't for everyone. If your living room has giant floor-to-ceiling windows and you refuse to buy curtains, an OLED can sometimes feel like a very expensive mirror. That's where the Bright Room Kings come in. The Samsung S95F is the absolute peak of 55-inch tech right now. It uses a QD OLED panel, which takes the perfect blacks of an OLED and adds a layer of quantum dots to boost the brightness to levels that are frankly a bit scary. It hits over 2100 nits in small highlights. That is bright enough to make you squint during a sunrise scene. But the real truth bomb here is the anti-glare coating. Samsung developed a new matte finish for 2026 that kills 99% of reflections without making the picture look fuzzy. If you have a bright room and you want the best possible picture, this is the winner. It is expensive, yes, but this is a TV you keep for 7 to 10 years. But Austin, I hear you saying, I have a mortgage, I have kids, I am not spending $1,500 on a television. I get it. This is where the value monster category saves the day. If you want 90% of the performance of those flagship TVs for about half the price, you need to look at the Hisense U8QG. This thing is a beast. It's a QD mini LED that pushes nearly 4,000 nits in HDR. That is insane. It's brighter than most professional studio monitors. In 2026, Hisense finally fixed their motion processing issues, meaning sports finally look smooth without that weird soap opera effect. It's the best bang for your buck TV under $1,000, period. If you can find this on sale, and Hisense is always on sale, you are getting a high-end experience at a mid-range price.
But what if you really only have $500? Is there any hope? Look, I told you to avoid the trash tier, and I stand by that. But there is one exception, one budget hero that actually respects its owner. The Roku Pro Series, or the Hisense U65QF, are the only sub-$600 TVs I'd actually put my name behind. Why? Because they don't try to lie to you. They use a decent mini LED backlight instead of that garbage edge lighting. They have a simple, fast interface that doesn't crash every time you try to open Hulu. They're the honest budget options. You won't get 144 Hz, you won't get 2000 nits, but you will get a reliable, decent-looking picture that won't die the day after your warranty ends. So here is the final verdict. If you're standing in a store in 2026 looking at a 55-inch TV that costs $399, I want you to walk away. You're not buying a TV, you're buying a headache. You're buying a slow processor, a dim screen, and a device that will be in a landfill by 2028. Save your money for 2 more months. Wait for the holiday sales, buy a 2025 flagship on clearance rather than a 2026 budget model. Your eyes will thank you, your wallet will thank you, and you'll actually enjoy the movies you're paying to stream. The era of the disposable display is here, but you don't have to be a victim of it. Do the math, check the specs, and never ever buy a TV just because the box says 4K, because in 2026, that's just the bare minimum. I'm Austin, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to stay ahead of the next big tech trap.